Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday Learning Bhagavatam class. This is the final chapter of Canto 9, Liberation, chapter 24, Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. And we're blessed to have our association with none other than Kārttika Chandra Prabhu. Welcome, Kārttika Chandra Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So you reached the ninth canto, the end of the ninth canto. It's quite an achievement to be here. You started with, I'm sure you started with the first chapter, the first canto, yeah?
We did, Prabhu.
Wow. So to reach here, 24th chapter of the ninth canto is the last chapter before you enter into the beautiful pastimes of Krishna Lila in the 10th chapter. How many of you are actually studying Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam every day?
If you can raise your hands.
I don't know if, yeah, maybe just roughly, like all of everyone, or yeah, good. We have at least 3 hands raised, which is good. I think it's important that you study the Bhagavatam. These overview sessions are good. However, they are not sufficient in and of themselves to kind of be treated as fit for the purpose of transformation of the heart. And the reason I say that is because there is a lot more that needs to happen when one reads the Bhagavatam on a daily basis and meditates on what one reads. Then the real transformation happens. The purpose of these overview sessions, and I think there are many people who can correct me if I'm wrong, is to develop that taste to read the actual thing. It's not meant to be a substitute for reading the Bhagavatam. I don't know if that makes sense, Dharmendra. Yeah.
Yes, perfect sense, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yeah. So especially when you get into a canto like Canto 9, which is quite complex in one sense, and to some devotees' mind, it's actually quite mystical, because all it has is names after names after names. And this particular chapter, specifically this chapter 24, it has over 200 names. 200 plus names in one chapter. My question to you all is, and you can unmute and reply. I mean, are they allowed to unmute and reply? Yeah. So you can unmute and reply, whoever wants to. What do you think is the reason that so many names after names after names are mentioned in this chapter? Anyone?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam.
Dandvat.
Prabhuji, I think it is just to ensure that this is not mythological and these characters are actually describing all the dynasties of the great kings, so if so many names are specified, that means it is history rather than myth. That is what I think.
Okay, so you've given one reason, which is brilliant. Thank you. There are 5 reasons. One reason is, and someone at the end can tell me what the 5 reasons are. So the first reason is, it's not mythology.
Is it lineage?
Sorry, say that again.
Is it lineage?
Yes. So why is the lineage given?
Because we need to know who the ancestors or who is written or what happened, and the families, just like how we have families. They had families in those days. That's the way I see it.
Okay. But I mean, they've only given names after names after names. So, what's the point?
It's not only the name it's mentioned, it mentioned even their experiences, their life experiences, and that should be like some kind of school for us to learn how they behaved, even though that they were exalted and so on, but to have it as an example for us.
Yes, but when you read the chapters, like for example, read chapter 24, you are almost certainly going to start wondering, well, 200 names in this one chapter and not a single pastime. Not a single pastime is mentioned. So how do I understand this? What's the whole idea behind it? And why not describe every individual,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances.
And what pranam?
And then the one, is it that here it is trying to highlight the ancestry and the generations of families, that they are so pious? Basically, it highlights the qualification of this family that Krishna chose to appear in.
Wonderful. So yes, absolutely. And we might have this question, why these just names after names? And it's to connect us to the lineage and the family of Krishna and Balram. Yes, that is absolutely true. What else? Can you think of anything else? Just one more. I'll open up and then I'll start answering.
Is it to do with the connection between various cantos, so you understand how each family is associated with each other?
Across the cantos, well, actually, not necessarily. The cantos can be connected with the family tree as such. I mean, yeah, there are speakers in the canto who do not even have a mention in the family tree. So not quite. So first of all, somebody said to establish that all of this is not mythical. Absolutely. And that's the most important point. That Shukdev Goswami wants to establish that everything that's mentioned here is directly, sorry, just 1 second. Yeah, is directly taken from historical facts. And the histories have been recorded over dynasties. Sorry, I thought I'm sharing my screen. I'm not. Let me. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet. We can now, Prabhu.
Okay. So every name actually is a pastime. And the reason why these are mentioned broadly is first to establish that none of this is mythological or mythical. It's all historical. Second is, somebody might question, well, that's fine, but I don't know. For example, if I ask anyone now in the crowd, who was Shwaphalka? Can anyone describe who was Shwaphalka? And what was his contribution, his pastime? No? Silence, because we don't know. Most of us don't know. So Shwaphalka was a king, certainly, and he had his, anyway, there's a whole pastime behind him and how he was born and why he was born and what blessing he received, etc. But we don't know. So we might wonder when Bhagavatam just describes and just puts this name or sprinkles his name in the chapter, we wonder why the name has been mentioned there. But to Parikshit, who was listening from Shukdev Goswami, he knew, he understood. You see, when I'm describing something complex to us, let's say if I'm describing how turbine engines work to a student of aerodynamics in engineering, he knows I don't have to redefine every single thing because he knows the background. But if I'm talking to somebody who is a complete novice, then the person would not know the background. Now, you should understand what this Bhagavatam is. It's a dialogue between Shukdev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. And Parikshit Maharaj knew almost all of these personalities and had heard about these personalities in his life. The other reason why they are just mentioned by name and nothing more, for most of them, hundreds of them, is because Parikshit had limited time of 7 days to hear the entire Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So within 7 days, if you have to achieve the hearing of Bhagavatam, you cannot, think of spending hours on katha of every single individual. It would take years to finish, but he only had 7 days. The fourth reason given by the different acharyas is every single name that is mentioned in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is purifying to the heart. It, even whether we know it or we don't know it, because of their direct, indirect connection with the Lord and his pastimes, they are purifying to our hearts. And that is why these names are mentioned. Because Bhagavata is not just about Bhagavan, it is about, you see, the word Bhagavata means devotee also. So Bhagavatam not only glorifies Bhagavan, Bhagavata means about Bhagavan, and it also means devotee. So Bhagavatam not only glorifies Bhagavan, it glorifies the devotees also. And where Bhagavatam is unable to go into detailed pastime due to lack of time, because Parikshit Maharaj only had 7 days to live, Bhagavatam still mentions those names because those names purify, and those names are thus, just by name, the personalities have been glorified. And in this way, we attract their mercy. So these are the 5 reasons why the 9th canto as a whole is list of names from the moon dynasty and the sun or the solar dynasty. So the lunar and the solar dynasty are the 2 dynasties that have been talked about, and the ultimate personality in the solar dynasty mentioned in the 9th canto is Lord Ramachandra. That's the culmination of the first section of the 9th canto. The second section of the 9th canto, the ultimate personality or the penultimate personality that is mentioned right at the end of the 24th chapter of the 9th canto, is Lord Kṛṣṇa and Balaram, who are the ultimate in the moon dynasty. So first roughly 11, 12 chapters are about the solar dynasty culminating in Ramchandra, and the other 12 are lunar dynasty culminating in Lord Kṛṣṇa. So that's how beautifully this has been laid out. So it's the genealogy, the lineage, the solar and the lunar dynasties. That's the essence of the 9th canto. And the 9th canto ends with actually a verse which is the sum and substance of the entire 10th canto, actually all of Krishna's pastime from his birth to his marrying the queens in Dwarka and living in Dwarka is mentioned in one verse. Shukdev Goswami finishes the 9th canto, chapter 24, with a verse which just says, so Lord Krishna appeared, he grew up, and he ultimately, after growing up in Braj, he was then taken to Mathura, and he was brought back, killed Kamsa, and he went to Dwarka, and he lived there with many queens. And that's the pastime of the Lord. So in this way, Shukdev Goswami is attempting to just give the gist. So the next canto, 10th canto, chapter 1, will begin with Parikshit Maharaj asking, oh, Shukdev Goswami, you have just, spoken in gist about Krishna and Balaram. Can you please elaborate on the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram? And at that point, Shukdev Goswami does not directly respond. He says, Parikshit, you've been listening to this discourse for a long time now. It's been nearly 5 days that we've been talking. And I've been talking, you've been listening. Why don't you take a break? So he's still trying to dissuade Parikshit, because to enter Krishna Leela is not a cheap thing. And what does Parikshit reply? This is in the first chapter of the 10th canto. Parikshit will reply by saying, well, I am completely quenched of all hunger and all thirst simply by tasting the nectar of Krishna Katha from your mouth. That in itself is so fulfilling that I do not wish to take a break. So in this way, the 9th canto leads into the 10th canto. Why this chapter 24 matters? So he's not like reciting a phone book of names. He's building a family which is leading to Krishna. Every name is one step towards Vasudev's courtyard. If you see it that way, every name has been given for a reason. In fact, some of the names will become Krishna's own names. And by the end of this chapter, the Lord will appear. So, very important how a Vedic child is named. I've generally not shared any of this, so these are all new slides. Namkaran Samskar is done based on broadly 4 things. Kuladevta, so worshipful deity, month of birth, birth star, and the name that people actually used because of the person's physical qualities or his activities or what blessings he or she has received. Now, I'm going to show you some family charts from this chapter. And the way you read it is, the blue ones are, of course, Krishna Balaram. The founder of the clan, the dynasty, is in dark orange. And if there's a pastime behind the name, then that's recorded like this. The women, the wives, the mothers, the daughters, they are in red. And all the other individual family members which are in the verse are in this light color. And then there's many groups of names all bundled together, which is the lightest color. So if you look at the whole family here, and just pay attention for a few seconds. So it starts with Vidarbha as the great, the great guardian, the great sort of forefather of Krishna. Great, hundreds of generations, great grandfather of Krishna. So from Vidarbha in text 1, you have in text 55 is when Krishna appears. But the way it leads there is, from Vidarbha you have Kusha, Kratha, and Romapada. And then from Romapada, you get Chaitya. Chaitya is Shishupal, actually, who was therefore connected to Kṛṣṇa in terms of his lineage. You then have from Kratha through 18 generations, Satvata. Now, interesting, Krishna's name is also Satvata. Devotees are also known as Satvata. Satvata means one who has sattva is a Satvata. And Satvata has Vrishni, Andhaka, Mahabhoja, and Devavridha. From Andhaka, you have Ugrasena, Devaka, and then you have Devaki. And Devaki gets married to Vasudeva. From Vrishni, you have Shura and Vasudeva. So in one sense, they are distant cousins, not immediate cousins. And then from Vrishni, you have Akrura. That's why Kṛṣṇa refers to Akrura as dear uncle, just like he refers to Kamsa as uncle. So this is the high-level lineage. But what I'll do is, and time won't be sufficient for this today, but I'll try and highlight some of the beautiful characteristics, pastimes, where appropriate. So 6 reasons the name is given. Now, this is an extremely important slide to understand why the names are given. Every name in this chapter, in fact, every strange name that you come across in any Purana, you should ask yourself these 6 things. Does the name refer to a birthmark? Something that was visible on the person's body at the time of birth. For example, let's take Dantavakra. Danta means, in Gujarati they say Daat, or Hindi they say Daat. And Danta, in English you say dental or dental, which means teeth. And Vakra means crooked. So because Dantavakra, a demoniac-minded person, had crooked teeth, so his name was Dantavakra. So this is a bodily feature that was visible at birth. Let's take another one, and I'm just taking it random as an example. Let's say Pandu. Pandu means one who is pale. And Pandu, when he was born, he was extremely pale, almost white in color. White, not in the sense of like a white person we call a white, but he was pale, really, really diseased kind of pale. Romapad, we'll come to Romapad later. Let's say birth star. Some personalities were born under these nakshatras. Punarvasu, Rohini, Hasta, and they were named based on that. Some personalities had a birth event, something that happened at the time of birth. So, when a person becomes a king, there is people around him, especially the ones who are the attendants, the other kings, the subordinates, they all will blow a conch shell, or they'll glorify the person. That's when they become a king, when they are anointed as a king. But in the case of Vasudeva, the father of Kṛṣṇa, his another name is Anakadundhubi. Anakadundhubi literally means, Dundhubi means bugles. And Anakadundhubi means the bugles were sounded. So the demigods blew their bugles in the sky as soon as this personality was born, as if a victorious personality has been born. Shankarshana. Kṛṣṇa means to draw out. Shankarshana means to draw out completely. So he was drawn out from the womb of Rohini and placed into the womb of Devaki. I said it the other way around. He's drawn out from the womb of Devaki and placed into the womb of Rohini. So his name was Shankarshana. That's also the name of Balaram. Parents' blessings. Devarata, or Anamitra. Let's take Anamitra. Anamitra means, Amitra means, Mitra means friend. Amitra means no friend, or not a friend, or an enemy. Anamitra means who has no enemy. So this was a blessing from the father, that may this child have no enemy. And then there's a family pattern. Sometimes the brothers and ancestors are all named based on the connection or the connection with the previous one. For example, these are three brothers. Shatajita. Shatajita means one who conquers 100 enemies in one go. 100 kings fighting with him. He can conquer them. His younger brother was known as Sahasrajita. Sahasra means 1,000. Jita means to win. He can conquer or win over 1,000 enemies simultaneously. His younger brother was known as Ayutajita. Ayuta means 10,000. So you can see where this is going. 100 to 1,000 to 10,000. So, it's all connected. So there's a family pattern sometimes in the names. And fifth and final one is where you have the names. Know who this is? Yeah. Fifth and final one is when you have names like Gandhini, for example, Satrajit, Shatadhanva. I mean, these are, by the way, I've just taken some samples, but there are these names are all over. And in fact, a person can have more than one name, like and their different names may fall under one of these different 6 categories. So, for example, a deed or a vow or an activity, Gandhini. Gandhini is the name of a lady. She was unwilling to come out of her mother's belly. And so a rishi gave a solution to the parents. If you donate a cow to a rightful brahmana, a righteous brahmana who's a rightful candidate to receive a donation, if you donate a cow every single day, Gam means cow. Actually, go is cow. The English word cow comes from go, which means cow. And Gam means also cow. So Gam, Dini means day. So every day, a cow was donated by the parents, every single day. And then she was born. And when she was born, she continued the practice to donate a cow every single day. Incredibly pious, incredibly meritorious this lady was. So her name was Gandhini. This is just an example of how the names were given, and sometimes the names would lead into a pastime. Sometimes the name will give us the sense of the person's qualities, their abilities, their attitudes, their psychology, their activities, their connections with the Lord, the pastimes, etc. So it's very important to understand the 6 elements, which the 6 reasons why a name is given according to the Puranic and Vedic standards. So, for example, there's one more thing, and this is not a name-giving thing, but this is how people's names are related to their ancestry. For example, when you want to say son of someone in Sanskrit, you just stretch the first vowel. So instead of Vasudeva, Vasudeva is father, is the name of the father of Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa, who is the son, is known as Vasudeva. Vasudeva, Vasudeva. Kṛṣṇa is not Vasudeva, that is the father. Vasudeva is Kṛṣṇa, son of Vasudeva. Yadu. is the father. The lineage of Yadu are known as Yadava. Madhu is the father, progenitor, and his lineage is known as the Madhava. So Krishna's name is Madhava, Krishna's name is Yadava, Krishna's name is Vasudeva. So you see what's happening there is Krishna is being connected to his lineage. The Vrishni is name of the king, and his lineage, like Krishna belonging to his lineage, is known as Varshaneya. This is also Krishna is referred to Varshaneya. Shura, Shauri, Devaka, Devaki. The daughter of Devaka is known as Devaki. So one must understand that these names, for example, the one we chant, these names are all essentially sharing or telling us what their descent is. So these are the descendants of these fathers. So that's the basis of understanding the different names. Now let's go into text 1 and 2. By the way, before we let me look at the time now. Oh, 8:40 already. Okay, so family tree, just to give you a quick synopsis of what I've got on the slide deck here. I've got first 2 texts, and then I have the family tree, and then you can see here how the family goes. And by the way, this little names here, these are the meanings of each one of these names. Each one of these names. For example, Vidarbha, Jyamaga. Jyamaga means to take a vow. And he had taken a fierce vow that he would perform sacrifices, thousands of sacrifices. By sacrifices, I mean fire sacrifices. And because he had taken the vow, he was known as Jyamaga. Maga also means sacrifices. Now, his son was known as Vidarbha because what had happened was that, anyway, I'll come to that. So this is the tree. Then I've got text 1, and I've got the reasons, what it means, the names, what they mean. So V plus Darbha means land without Darbha grass. So a sage's son actually died in this place, in Jamaga's kingdom. The sage's son died because of being pierced by a sharp blade of grass. Now, somebody might think, how is that even possible? It's possible. In fact, there was a very well-known case in the Victorian times of a flower girl who died because she got pricked by a thorn of a rose plant. So what actually happened was that she got pricked by the thorn of the rose plant, and then she developed sepsis. And the sepsis spread from her thumb into her body, and she passed away. So it's possible that you got pierced by something which you think is, it's going to heal by itself, but you have a situation where you could lose your life because of that. So that's exactly what happens with one sage's son. And because his son has died in this kingdom, he curses the kingdom to become a land where Darbha grass does not grow. Now, if you know what Darbha grass is, it's also known as Kusha. It's also known as Kusha, the sacred grass Kusha. And Vidarbha means that grass does not grow there. So in fact, the whole land was also known as Vidarbha. And that Vidarbha is even still there in India. There's a place called Vidarbha. Of course, later on, because of the penances, the curse was redacted and the Kusha grass does grow. And that was because of Kusha's own penance. But Vidarbha is the name given by Jyamaga to his son, who is born in this place where the Darbha grass has stopped growing. And like that, you have the whole lineage here. From Vidarbha, you have Kusha, Kratha, and Romapada. And then it talks about the lineage going all the way to Chedi. Chedi is also name of a kingdom. And then Chaidya, who is Shishupala. Again, these all have a meaning. So what I've got here is, for example, text 1 and 2. Then I've got, so this is the chart for text 1 and 2. These are the names. Then for each one of the name, there's a meaning. Then text 2, these are the names, what it actually means and why. This is text 3 to 5. These are 21 generations, as you can see here, with all their meanings. And then from 3 and 4, we have these names, and these are the meanings, why they got those names. 3 and 4 again, text 5. Then text 6 to 11, what's the lineage, and what are the name meanings. Like that, it goes on and on and on. It goes on all the way to the last, towards the end, where we talk about all of the names, including the name Hari. One who takes away from Hari means to steal. So in this way, we have got all of the names here. It's virtually impossible for me to go through in this session with all of these names. So at this point, I'm going to stop the presentation and see if anyone has any questions. At least you understood what the purpose of this chapter is. And of course, maybe I'll go through in the next, if there are no questions, I'll go through the last section where you see the names of Kṛṣṇa and just maybe highlight those names. It should give you a sense of that these names are actually not random. They all mean something and they're all connected. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, Prabhu. If anyone does have any questions, could you kindly raise your hand, please, and I'll call you out, if that's okay. Sadhvi Mataji, would you like to ask your question, please? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, and thank you very much for today. Strangely, I don't ever have question for the names. I can understand that, and I'm not confused by that, but there's something that there are many things in this chapter which I would just take the one which is very, for me, very confusing, so that I need to learn to understand it. We talk about Lord Balaram and Lord Kṛṣṇa, and when we think about this from the beginning, there are two brothers, Yadu and Puru. They are two brothers, and their children later on will be Yadu. Pandavas and so on, and then Yadu is lineage of Kṛṣṇa. So in this situation, so when we go down to the situation where the Kurukshetra happened, Lord Balaram take care of and teaching Duryodhana, while Lord Kṛṣṇa take the side of Arjuna. For me, it's kind of difficult to understand. It's like, almost is like from there, up there, two brothers, and then down there, two brothers. It's almost like there's interaction between brothers all the way. Do I understand it right? Could you please help me to understand it? Thank you.
If I understand your question correctly, you're wondering why Balram sided with Duryodhana, whereas Kṛṣṇa sided with Arjuna, and why is it that it seems the two brothers have an opposite choice made?
Yeah, if I by myself, if I want to think about it, it's look to me, it's like a play. They just play. They are playing. They are like, I have 6 children, so 3 boys, 3 girls, and I saw them when they were playing together. They had sword and playing together, fighting together, and so on and so on. For me, it's almost like a play between. You know what I mean? It's like, with all respect and humility, I'm saying that I don't mean any by any means bad way, but it's like a Shakespeare play. You know what I mean? So for me, it sounded that way. It's like a play between two.
Yeah, I mean,
do I understand it right or not?
Yes,
Thank
yes. I mean, ultimately, the entire Bhagavatam and every personality that takes part in the pastimes of the Lord have been chosen by the Lord himself. So none of these personalities are random individuals, including those whom we think are demons. They're not random individuals. They have been picked up by the Lord to play a role in his pastime. And by the very name pastime, what we mean is it's a play. In fact, Vedanta Sutra says, Lokavattu Leela Kevalyam, which means just like Lokavat, just like in ordinary world, you have a child or a group of children playing. And if you ask them, why are you playing? They will just say, well, we're playing just because we want to play, just for the fun. There is no deeper reason other than we just wish to play, and that's why we are playing. So Vedanta Sutra says, Lokavat, just like in the loka, just like in the world, Leela, play, Kevalyam, it's simply a play in the cosmic sense also. And the Lord has his playful pastimes, and these pastimes are enacted in various universes, and he picks the characters himself. Characters to play on his side and characters to play on the opposite side. Not necessarily the characters on the opposite side are, they're playing a particular role, but not necessarily they are ones who we should despise. For example, one might think, well, Hiranyakashipu was an absolute miserable demon. And yes, in a particular sense, he was. However, originally, he is, one of the brothers, Jai and Vijay, who were the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha. So, Srila Prabhupada gave a wonderful analogy. See, please listen carefully to understand this. He said that when I was in Calcutta growing up, in Calcutta, the river Ganga flows and is known as the Hooghly. But it's apparently, and I want to emphasize the word apparently, filthy, smelly, with foul odor. It's actually repulsive. You would not want to go anywhere close to it because of all of the sewage pipes and everything from the big city of Calcutta that opens into the Ganga. It's dark, it's ugly, it's you don't want to be anywhere close to it. And so people of Calcutta don't generally look at the Hooghly in a favorable way. But they do go all the way upstream to Haridwar, from where the Ganga actually comes. And there they go at the mouth of the Ganga to take a dip in the Ganga, because they think the Ganga is pure there. And they think that the Ganga is not pure at Hooghly. But Srila Prabhupada then says, but the reality is Ganga is always pure, whether at the mouth or at Hooghly. However, if you stand on the banks of the Hooghly, you're going to look at the Ganga as impure. You're going to look at the Ganga she has become apparently filthy. So, in the same way, then Prabhupada explains, there are personalities who perform various pastimes. the personalities are originally pure, and actually they are pure throughout. But their purity is hidden, just like the Hooghly, which is actually Ganga. Its purity is hidden, her purity is hidden at Calcutta. Similarly, these personalities that we see at a certain point in time, in a certain pastime, may appear to us as completely destructive and anti-God or anti-Kṛṣṇa. The reality, though, being that these are characters playing a pastime. And if you look at it, like you mentioned, the Yadus, for example, and the Yadava dynasty it's interesting. And actually, this chapter there's a lot of mention of the different, dynamics of how. So, for example, if I may just share my screen again, you'll realize what I mean by that is. So, can you see my screen?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
You can see my screen. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, so let me go here. Let me go to this. So you have Mahabhoja. Mahabhoja means, so Mahabhoja is also Satvata's. Satvata, his son, one of his sons is Mahabhoja. Now, if you go into Mahabhoja's lineage, then further down, so let me see when I can get to Mahabhoja, you will see that Mahabhoja, actually, from that lineage comes Kamsa. Mahabhoja. These are all the Bhoja kings. Mahabhoja literally means the great enjoyer. So he has enjoying propensity. He's also son of Satvata, but he has the enjoying propensity, and from the enjoying propensity is born the Bhoja kings. In that lineage, that is where Kamsa is. But it's in the same Satvata lineage that you have Vrishnis, in which Kṛṣṇa is born. And it's in the same Satvata lineage that you have Bhajamana, and you have Nimalochi, Kankana, Drishti, and Shatajit, Sahasrajit, Ayutajit, these personalities born who are great devotees, because Bhajamana means one who worships. So the same father has given birth to these different characters, and that is ultimately to play the pastime that the Lord wants to play. So absolutely, if you look at these names, Bhajamana, one who worships, is mode of goodness. Bhaji means one who shares, who serves. Divya means heavenly. Vrishni, these are the names of the children. 7 sons of King Satvata. He had 7 sons. And Vrishni means one who is the most valorous, one who is the strongest, one who is like a bull. Vrishni also means one who is merciful like the rain. Deva Vridha, he who gladdens the demigods. Andhaka means the dark one. He was dark complexion. So all the lineage was known as Andhakas. And Mahabhoja means the great enjoyer. From this, you can see from Bhajamana, you find the lineage who becomes completely devotional. And from Mahabhoja, you find a lineage which is completely consuming. And you have Kamsa born in this lineage. So it's the same father, and then the lineage giving rise to different personalities. One might wonder why, how. It's because it's the pastime that the Lord wants to play, and he wants to use these characters to be born. Actually, each one of these characters have a divine origin. Now, here's the beautiful thing. Not just that each of these characters have a divine origin, each one of us have a divine origin. We might think, well, we are extremely sinful, we are having very limited bhakti, and we may think we have no hope. But the reality is, we all have divine qualities. The reality is, Krishna has proclaimed in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Mama eva amsho jiva loke. Mama eva amshaha. You're all my part and parcel. Jiva loke. You're now in this material existence. Jiva bhutaha. Sanatanaha. You are eternally with me. You are eternally my fragmental parts. But because you are in this world, manaha shashtani indriyani, with the mind and the 5 senses, total 6. Prakriti sthani, in this material world, karshati, you're struggling. You're struggling because of your own mind and senses. But the reality is you're divine. Your origin is divine. And the whole setup, the whole play is designed ultimately to make us open our eyes and turn back to the divine. We have become bahirmukha and we have to become antarmukha. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, thank you very much for this answer. There's, when we are talking about we are all the part and partial, I kind of understand, but at the same time, I get to hear about Shudras. We are from Prabhupada's lecture. I have heard many times that in Kali Yuga there are all Shudras. There are not that kind of how to say the 4 group that they say Brahmana and you know what I mean. We are all Shudra. Yes, we are all Shudra. So how to understand that? Because if we all are Shudras, then it means it's meant for us not to learn so much about Shastras, but only to chant and as Lord Chaitanya says, only to chant and do services. That's it. There is no need to read about it. There is no need to study and learn Shastra. Only do that. That is enough. Is that right? Thank you.
Yeah, and I think I'll answer this quickly so we can open up for others to ask questions as well. But yeah, I mean, the premise that you have is that we are all Shudras and therefore we don't need to learn Shastra. In that premise, you have assumed that Shudras don't learn Shastras. But that is not the case. Vidura was actually considered to be a Shudra. He's even mentioned in the Bhagavatam as being one of lower birth. And yet he's also mentioned as one who is not only a great devotee, but who's extremely learned. So there isn't a disqualification. Shudra is more of the Varna in the sense of the operating model, how one operates in this world. So one operates, for example, Shudra by his gunas would like to serve others, whereas a Brahmana by his gunas would like to teach and guide others. Now, having said all that, actually the Varnas in this world are all twisted, topsy-turvy, and that's why the real Varna system that Srila Prabhupada actually establishes is Daivi Varnashrama. The difference between the ancient Vedic Varnashrama and the Daivi Varnashrama is that Daivi Varnashrama redefines the ancient Varnashrama system with Kṛṣṇa or transcendental activities in the center. So regardless of whether one is Shudra in activities, regardless of one is Vaishya in his activities or her activities, or Brahmana or any of the Varnas, they are all connected to the Lord through service. And I think that is the key that we need to understand. It's not true at all to think that one is Shudra, so one should not study any Shastra. In fact, quite the contrary. I was just giving a Bhagavad Mahatmya class at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, in which I spoke from the Padma Puran, and there are direct injunctions in the Padma Puran that this Kali Yuga is full of faults, and there is no good in Kali Yuga, and yet anyone who sings the glories of the Lord, anyone who reads the glories of the Lord in this Kali Yuga will benefit. Now, that statement would become completely useless if the premise was one should not read, one should not bother studying Shastra in Kali Yuga. Then that particular premise becomes completely useless. Okay?
Thank you. I have one question, but I wait until everybody else has chance. Thank you.
Yeah. I suggest you read text number 61 of this chapter, of this very chapter. If you read text number 61 of this chapter, it says, and I'm reading, to show causeless mercy to the devotees who would take birth in the future, in this age of Kali, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Kṛṣṇa acted in such a way that simply by remembering him, one will be freed from all the lamentation and unhappiness of material existence. In other words, he acted so that... Sorry? Someone saying something? Okay. In other words, he acted so that all future devotees, by accepting the instructions of Krishna consciousness stated in the Bhagavad Gita, very clear. So your question was, we shouldn't study the scripture. We don't need to study the scripture. And I'm actually reading from this chapter, yeah? I'm not even going to other chapters. So this is 924.61. Kalau, in Kali Yuga, where you're saying everyone is a Shudra. Yes, Shudra in mindset, which means everyone is ultimately got these Shudra-like qualities, Manda Sumanda Matayo qualities. In this particular Kali Yuga, the translation says, in fact, the verse exactly says the same thing as the translation, which is to show mercy to the devotees who would take birth in the future in this age of Kali. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Kṛṣṇa acted in such a way that simply by remembering him, one will be freed from all lamentation and unhappiness of material existence. Prabhupada clarifies what it means by saying, in other words, he acted so that, he meaning Krishna acted so that all future devotees, by accepting the instructions of Krishna consciousness stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Could you accept the instructions of Krishna consciousness stated in the Bhagavad Gita without ever touching, thinking, reading, studying the Bhagavad Gita? No. They could be relieved from the pangs of material existence. So this isn't just in this chapter, but the reality is it's throughout the Bhagavatam. In fact, we spoke about Padma Puran, Bhagavad Mahatmya, where it is clearly mentioned that, in fact, Padma Puran says, Bhagavad Mahatmya says that jivas are asuratam gataha. In fact, jivas have not only become Shudras in Kali Yuga, they have all become Asuras in Kali Yuga. And yet, Padma Puran says we should all study, read. Pathasva. Pathasva means one should study Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. This is the injunction. So I think that kind of clarifies the doubt completely. Yes, next question, Bhagadatta Prabhu.
Yes. Hare Krishna. Can you hear me, Prabhu?
I can, yeah.
Regarding the names, as you described in the lineage of Krishna, everyone's name has some deep meaning. Then it seems that with time this has been lost, because in Kali Yuga no one knows what their names mean. And sometimes the names are just some random sound. So was that in the Vedic time, everyone's name meant something and they were related to, as you said, the activities or something in connection with that?
Yes, absolutely. I think not just to be honest, not just the Vedic times. The answer is yes, by the way. In Vedic times, yes, names would have had a meaning, and those names would have been given by either the parents or by the Kula Guru. For example, Krishna's name, Balram's name was given by the Kula Guru, Gargamuni. So similarly, other names would have been given by a qualified Kula Guru or an astrologer, or by, like for example, Harsha Shoka tells everything about what this child is going to bring to the parents. Like for example, Dhritarashtra, which means one who holds on to the kingdom, tells a lot about his mindset. But forget the Vedic times, even not so long ago, in the Victorian times, for example, names were given which had a meaning, and people would, like for example, Florence. People would have an understanding of the name. For example, the word Florence is Latin for flourishing or being prosperous. And you had the lady very famous by the name of Florence Nightingale. Her name was actually given because her parents thought that she should become prosperous. So it could be a blessing. The name could be just a blessing. Or for example, you had Beatrice Potter, very famous. And
Yeah.
it comes from the Italian Beatrix, which means she who brings happiness. And Beatrice Potter actually brought lots of happiness with her books to a lot of children. You had like Agatha Christie, the famous writer. And Agatha means good in Greek. Irene, for example, means peace. And Elizabeth, actually. Elizabeth, a very royal name. Elizabeth literally means, in Hebrew, it means God is my oath. So I take wow. And that's why, Elizabeth, I mean, the kings and queens, even to this day, they are known as defenders of the faith. Every king, every queen, including the current king, is mentioned as a defender of the faith. So every name, Mary, for example, means in Hebrew means beloved. You have the name Clara, which is a Latin for clear or bright. So all these names which were given, these are all female names, but even male names like William means one who is very strong, resolute, and protector. John actually means God is gracious. That's the Hebrew meaning of the word John. Henry means one who rules the house, one who is, he's a royalty, he's the ruler. So lots of royal kings and queens have their name, not queens, but lots of kings have the name Henry, for example. So what I'm trying to say is the names were given by parents, and even in modern times. Let's say this was Victorian, but let's say even modern times. I know, for example, a friend, she gave her daughter who was born after 6 miscarriages. A daughter was born to her, and she brightened up her entire life, and she named her Angel. And she said, she is my angel. That's why her name will be Angel. So I think, point being, we do have, even in modern context, there's also like in India, for example, you have names which do sound quite random, like Bobby. I know a person whose name is Dodo. Now, Dodo can really mean dumb. So I don't know why you would name your child as Dodo. But anyway, I mean, there are both. But in ancient times, there was a bit more sense into it, and that sense seems to have been lost over a period of time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Can I?
Jayanti Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Krishna.
My question is, the Lord, when he comes, he performs pastimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he comes home again and again. He descends for our benefit. So my question is, every time he comes, are these is it the same lineage with the same names, or they're different? And if they're different, so then
yeah.
what's the point of us learning about this particular lineage and these particular names if they're every time different?
Oh, because the Lord chose to, for this particular day and age of Brahma and this particular universe, he chose to choose these personalities as the personalities in whose lineage and house he appeared. So he specifically chose these individuals as the guardians or as the patriarchs and the matriarchs in the society. And that's why these are relevant for us. So it's about relevance. Relevant to us in this day and age are the pastimes of the Lord that he performed in this day of Brahma. And these personalities therefore appeared in this day of Brahma. In fact, everything is relevant. If you see, the spiritual life is all about relevance. And so it's not irrelevant. It's quite the contrary. These are the personalities who are relevant. Like Lord Chaitanya is relevant, and not so much, let's say, Lord Yagya, who's also Vishnu. I mean, he appeared. Yagya also appeared as Indra during the pastimes of Prithu Maharaj. Now that Yagya, could we worship him? Lord Yagya? I'm not talking of Yagya as a fire sacrifice. Lord Yagya? Yeah, we could, but not relevant to this moment, day and age. So I think the names and the personalities are glorified by Shukdev Goswami to reiterate the fame of these individuals and their connection with Krishna, and through that, relevance to us. Like, for example, relevant to us in this 2026 is our immediate spiritual masters. But does that mean Prabhupada is irrelevant or others are irrelevant? This is the whole lineage that connects us all the way to Krishna. And if you look at the reverse, the parampara, the other way around, it's what leads to Krishna in one sense. And that's the whole lineage that the reverse parampara, if I might say, is what is being mentioned here. And that's relevant for this day and age. Mm-hmm. Like there are millions of personalities, bhaktas, like Srila Prabhupada, who must be appearing in millions of different planets and universes. Mm-hmm. But for us, it is Srila Prabhupada. I hope that makes sense. It's the time factor, it's the relevance factor.
Because we appeared in.
Correct. So we are here and now. So for us who are here and now, this is the very relevant list of individuals.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Bridget, you had a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna.
much for this beautiful session. I have a question.
Yeah.
So we all are part and parcels of God, and this also means that we and even the sages and the demigods, we are the same. We are equal in our purity, in our love, in our soul level. And with whole humility, I have this question. If we were created with the same level of consciousness compared to demigods, for example, let's say Brahma, why did we became conditioned and Brahma didn't, because I am in beginning to understand the scriptures, and I read recently that even the demigods, they were created under the influence of modes of nature. So yeah, thank you.
Perfect. You asked a very relevant and powerful question. Well, actually, powerful question. Do you know the word Bridget means powerful in Irish? Yeah, it's your name Bridget means powerful or exalted in Irish. It's from old Germanic, French Germanic word Bridget. Anyway, sorry, that's a digression. To answer your question, the powerful question you asked. So I think if you read carefully, you will see, for example, Bhagavad Gita says, A Brahma Bhuvana Loka. A Brahma means from Brahma right up to the lower planets. Everyone is conditioned. So it isn't true that we are conditioned and the demigods are not. Yes, some may be less conditioned than us. Some may be more conditioned than us, which by the way, we can see throughout, right? So somebody who is unfortunately gotten into a habit of, let's say, taking drugs and alcohol and doing all kinds of wrong behavior, wrong things, and criminal activity, is unfortunately of a lower mode of life and thinking than someone who is charitable and who's kind and so we can see this all around us, people of different consciousness. But the reality is they are still all conditioned. Even a kind person is conditioned. Even a charitable person is conditioned. So just because they're charitable, they have nice qualities, doesn't mean they're not conditioned. Similarly, Brahma, although he is the topmost being, Adi Kavi, Bhagavatam says, Adi Kavi, he's still conditioned. Even the mode of goodness is conditioned. You can get conditioned in the mode of goodness. So what to speak of mode of passion, which is Brahma's predominant mode. And he has a mode of passion predominantly because he is a creator. You cannot create if you have no passion. Right? So he is actually in the mode of passion predominantly. Again, I'm just repeating what's mentioned in the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So we all conditioned, and the whole purpose of Mahaprabhu's movement is Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Cheto Darpana Marjanam, to clean the conditioned mirror of our consciousness, clean that mirror so that we can see our real identity, our real unconditioned identity, which is in relation to Kṛṣṇa, which is us as divine part and parcels of the Supreme Lord, our original unconditioned state. And that is the whole purpose of Mahaprabhu's mission. I hope it makes sense. The demigods that you're thinking of are not non-conditioned. They are also conditioned. Perhaps less conditioned in some degrees.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Beautiful answer. Thank you.
Thank you for a nice question. Yes, Bhagadatta Prabhu.
It's me, actually. I have one question. We were thinking about the...
Sorry, before you ask the question, Dharmendra Prabhu, can you scan through the chat? I haven't had a chance to scan through it and see if there are any questions in the chat that I could take after this question.
Sure, Prabhu, yes.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Jayanti Malji.
Kṛṣṇa says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna that him and Arjuna, they had many births, but Arjuna does not remember and Kṛṣṇa does, because Arjuna is eternal associate of Kṛṣṇa, so he appears in different times as a different personality. I guess. So my question is, all these personalities, are they also eternal associates with Krishna? Do they appear every time with him? All these names and the whole lineage and all these personalities which we have learned?
Yeah, different individuals appear at different points in time. I mean, even the verse you're referring to, Bhagavad Gita 4.5, I think it is, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacha Arjuna. I have been through many appearances, and you have also been through many births. Tani aham veda sarvani. I remember them all. I know them all. I'm aware of them all. Natvam veta parantapa. But you don't know them all. Because if you knew them all, you wouldn't be able to play the part that you're playing in this particular yuga, in this particular role. Because if you get tinged with other roles that you remember, you wouldn't be able to properly play parts. So I've made you forget all of those other roles. And similarly, there are other personalities who might appear, sometimes appear and sometimes not appear, depending on the pastime that he performs. So it's not a right assumption to say that all of these personalities always appear with the Lord in every single in every single act of creation. Sometimes they may, sometimes they may not.
So they're not all eternal associates like Arjuna, for example.
They're all associates to some degree. There are three categories of individuals who enter into the pastimes of the Lord. Three categories. This is mentioned in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, and it's also mentioned in the Skanda Puran. The three categories are Nitya Siddha, which is eternal associates. Like, for example, Arjuna is, Mother Yashoda is, Nanda Maharaj is. They're eternal. They are always there for and with Krishna. That's first category. The second category is known as Devadya. Devadya means these are demigods, etc., who Krishna summons to participate in his pastimes. He summons them, he asks them. Somehow he inspires them as Paramatma to participate in his pastimes. And it's these demigods, extensions, and children. For example, the entire Yadu dynasty were powerful demigod children. That's the second category. And then the third category is Tal Lipsuhu, Skanda Puran says, which means those jivas who are not eternal associates yet. They're not eternal associates yet, as in just yet, in that sense yet, just yet. However, they are qualified through their previous love for Krishna, devotion for Krishna. They have become qualified to participate in this pastime of the Lord when the Lord appears. And these personalities, after this birth, become eternal associates of the Lord. So these are three clear categories. For example, all of the and it's mentioned when Ramchandra, when he was visiting the forests of Dandakaranya, all the sages of Dandakaranya were mesmerized with Lord Ram's beauty, and they wanted to associate with Lord Ram as their lover. However, it's not possible for Lord Ramchandra to have more than one wife, and what to speak of one wife? These are all men, predominantly rishis, old men. So they were all born again as gopis in Braj. Now, are they eternal associates? Not just yet, but they will become. When Varahadev pierced the underside of the Bhumandala, when he jumped into the waters, all the different aquatic animals who saw him became deeply attracted to him and wished him to become their husband. They were all born again as gopis. When the Lord smiled at Brahma after Brahma spoke the Brahma Samhita, and when the Lord's flute was heard, all of the Vedas and the Richas meaning the individual verses or the mantras of the Vedas, became attracted to the Lord, and they all wanted to become a paramour, sort of not paramour, sorry, a consort of the Lord. The Richas, the mantras of the Vedas, want to become a consort. And so they were born as Shrutijanya gopis. Every single verse of the Veda. Yeah. So we see that all the personalities that had a deep devotion were born to participate in the pastimes of the Lord. Plus there were eternal personalities. Plus there were the demigods. These are the three categories. No one in the fourth category. There's no fourth category. There is no one who does not belong to these three. The first two are chosen. The demigods have been summoned and the eternal associates are chosen. And the third one is those who have developed that level of love for the Lord. No fourth category could participate in the pastimes of the Lord. Right? Is that clear?
Yes, thank you. That was actually really good. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. Any questions in the chat, and then I think we'll close it.
No, there's
two more
yeah.
minutes, and then we'll close. Yeah.
No, there's no. Oh, hang on. There's no questions that I've seen on the chat. But
I did
sorry.
see someone asking whether Devarata was name of Bhishma. Oh, I think it's gone for some reason.
It's gone. Yes, it's gone. It's not there anymore.
Is that
I saw that as well.
Yeah, but I'll answer that. It's Devarata is not name of Bhishma. His name was Devavrata. It's different to Devarata. Devarata means one who is protected by the demigods, and Devavrata means one who takes a divine vow. So these are two separate meanings.
I've just got one question here that's just come in, and it says, please could you elaborate what is meant by part and parcel of the Lord, Krishna's quality and quantity, also on the names. I understand in India the child's name based on the star positions, which kind of lends itself to the uncultured nature of the child. So I think that's what it says here.
I think there's two questions there, isn't it?
Yeah.
One is about the name giving in India. The other is what is part and parcel, quality and quantity. Is this from Hitesh? Yeah.
It is. Yes.
So I think the first question can be answered by any other speaker as well, and I'll just defer that because we are up against time. I do have another appointment now at 9:30, so I'll have to unfortunately drop off. But essentially, part and parcel in quality and in quantity, we are the parcel, we are the part, but in quality, we are absolutely one. For example, the example is given of a fire, a huge bonfire. For example, if you have a Guy Fawkes night, they have a bonfire, and on the, around the bonfire, you always have these sparks, or you do Holi. At the manor, we have the Holi celebration, and there's a fire, and then you have these little sparks coming out of the fire. So the little sparks is us. The big fire is like Kṛṣṇa. Now, it's not quite when they say quantity, we immediately think of quantity as a measurable, three-dimensional thing. But that's not quite what is referred to here. as quantity. It's about the quantitative. I have to be. So, if you read, for example, if you read teachings of Lord Chaitanya, you will find there's a chapter about the different qualities of Lord Shiva, of a Jiva, and of Kṛṣṇa. And there you will understand that there are elements that we don't have, which Kṛṣṇa has and Shiva has. There are elements that Shiva does not have of what Kṛṣṇa has. And by the way, these are all mentioned by Lord Chaitanya based on Shastra, and these were discussed with Sanatana Goswami. So there you will find that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, essentially, with scriptural references. So that's what is mentioned as quantitatively different, if you think deeply. And then if you say qualitatively one, it actually means Satchidananda. We are Sat, we are eternal. We are Chit, which means we are in our original state, we are fully aware of our existence, our being. And Ananda, in our original state, we are fully blissful. At the moment, in the covered state, we're not fully aware and we're not fully blissful. We simply exist. And that also most people don't really know or understand. As far as the child's name giving, I mean, I can't really understand your second part, which kind of lends itself to the uncultured nature of the child. Also on the names, I understand in India, the child is named based on star positions, and named on star position lends them to be uncultured nature. I can't really make that connection, unless maybe you mistyped it, or if you're still online, you want to elaborate, please do. Otherwise, I'll have to give it a pass because I don't quite follow the question. Unless you follow it, Dharmendra Prabhu.
I don't, Prabhu. Hitesh Prabhu, are you still there? Would you like to unmute and elaborate on that, please? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, wonderful class. Thank you so much for your quality and quantity response. That was wonderful. Yeah, what I was kind of getting at is that, from what I understand, is children, or when they're born, they're given they call it a rashi, or a couple of letters to which under which they should be named.
Yeah.
And based on the rashi or the naming of the child, it kind of gives an indication of the child's nature, or which is unnurtured nature. So they would have a certain type of characteristic based on this name, and unless if they become nurtured, obviously nurtured by parents and schools, it would kind of change. That's kind of what I was getting at.
Mm-hmm. So what is the question?
So is it still
was it just a comment?
It was a comment, but I was wondering if is it still kind of practiced? Because when we, for example, get initiated, or when people get initiated, I'm not sure what the practice is of how the name is given to the initiate.
Okay, well,
if there was any sort of connection there. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so if the question is how the initiate devotees given names, I think Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada tended to keep the name, the first letter of the name same as the birth name, the given name. But that's by the way, Prabhupada called it the government name. So he said, what's your, like he was initiating somebody by the name of John. He didn't know his name. He said, Prabhupada said, what's your government name? And then the man was confused. He said, what do you mean by government name, sir? And then he said, no, your government name, the name you put in your official documents. And he said, oh yeah, my name is John. And then Prabhupada gave him some name. But Prabhupada used to try and keep the first letter the same as your given name. And I think that's generally, and I say generally with emphasis, because that's generally the practice. However, there is no norm. So you would have hundreds and probably even thousands of exceptions where the birth name is, let's say, the birth name is, I don't know, your birth name is Roy, but that's your given name, Roy, but your spiritual name is Kṛṣṇa Das. I mean, it's very much possible. It depends on the spiritual master. It's completely independent. There isn't a rule book. There isn't a law book which kind of restricts what name can be given. And sometimes, there are titles. For example, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was Bimla Prasad, and then he became Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It's also the Saraswati and Thakur is also a title. So yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That was wonderful. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
All right. I think we'll have to close the
Yeah.
call. Thank you, everyone,
Okay.
for your
Thank
time.
you, Prabhu.